how long have you been in the trading space?
Bro, at this point, I would have been officially trading on a live account for 9 years. There would be times in the markets where I would make money, I would save and hold on to money in withdrawals, but then I would lose the account after that. So, everything is done very meticulously and it's very calculated. Now, the majority of times it goes very well, and then sometimes it may not, but that's the risk of being a day trader. You as a trader, like the ropes that you go through and the everyday struggles there is of just being a trader and being in the markets, and really the mental toughness that comes along with trading.
And at this point, like, what still gives you that motivation?
Really, it just comes down to my faith and bringing my family closer to my faith and my beliefs in religion. Number 2 would be to provide the best quality of life to my family, and then is really to live life the way I want to live life.
And you make a lot of money, and especially at your level, like, is it ever going to be like Bugatti Raul one day or something? What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the No Limit podcast. We got him. He is here in the studio with us today, Mr. LamboRaul. How are you doing, bro?
I'm doing good, bro. Thank you.
Dude, it's a pleasure to have you. When I first started this podcast, like, you were one of like the top 3 people I wanted to get on, so we
awesome.
finally made it happen,
That's awesome.
Appreciate you taking the time. It's super cool to get to sit down with you. Have a lot of questions for you, a lot of updates I want to hear. But off the bat, bro, how long have you been in the trading space?
Bro, at this point, when we're in 2025, so October, I would have been officially trading on a live account for 9 years.
9 years? And then
Yeah.
before that, before live account, like, how long? When did you hear about it?
Probably like another maybe 8-9 months or so, just kind of studying, getting to know the basics of what trading actually is, and then of course like price action, building a trading system, and then demo trading as well, and then back testing in there as well. But officially, like, trading live is gonna be 9 years.
And that's crazy. I want to ask, before the Lambo came, what was your like Instagram name before LamboRaul?
It was Raul GTR.
Oh, really? Because you had a
Yeah.
GTR?
Yeah, I did. It was funny because I was actually at a New Year's party, and I had already bought in the Lamborghini Huracan, and I had the GTR. I had my M3 CS, I had a GTR, and then I had the Huracan. And really all I drove was like my M3 and the Huracan. And I was talking to one of my boys, Ryan, during this New Year's party. He's like, bro, why is your name Raul GTR? Like, you don't even drive the car anymore. You don't post the car anymore. You should change your name. I'm like, damn, you're kind of right. So literally right there on the spot, I changed it to LamboRaul, and it's been like that since. Yeah.
Is it ever going to be like Bugatti Raul one day or something? Or?
Nah, it won't, bro. Because
Yeah.
like the thing is, I started social media because I was really into just cars.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people nowadays are getting into social media because like you have your personal brands and all these different things that you could do with social media and making money online. For me, I was just more in the car world and car enthusiast, and everybody I followed, it was literally just a page to showcase their car and the build on their car.
Yeah.
So that was the same exact case for me. So when I got the GTR, it was Raul GTR. And I just posted pictures of the GTR, and then I started posting pictures of the M3, and then I got the Huracan, posted pictures of the Huracan, and then that's when I switched it over to LamboRaul.
And then more trading content kind of came.
And once I started finding like more serious success, because there would be times in the markets where I would make money, I would save and hold on to money in withdrawals, but then I would lose the account after that. So like I didn't really understand that to be success, when although really what trading is if it comes to the end of the quarter or the end of the year, if your P&L is green, like that's success.
Possible, yeah.
That's profitable. So in my head, that's what I envisioned profitability and success to be like from trading specifically. So I didn't really feel like I actually had that. So once I had really a deeper understanding of my trading system and actually making money on a more consistent basis is when I started posting my trading results. Because it's, you as a trader, like the ropes that you go through and the struggles, the everyday struggles there is of just being a trader and being in the markets, and really the mental toughness that comes along with trading. So once you start finding consistent profitability, and when I say consistent profitability, I guess it's like a really big spectrum, because like there's people that may lose money 2-3 months in a row, and then the rest of the year just be green.
Yeah.
But then there could be people that the first 3 quarters of the year be green, and then the last quarter be red. So like that's why I say it's like in a huge spectrum. So I don't want people who are watching this to think consistent profitability is green every single day, when we all know that's not the case.
Yeah.
Right. But when the results were more consistent, then that's when I started to have like this feeling of like, damn, like I am really doing this.
Yeah.
And that's when I started kind of posting about it, because it was like more of a proud accomplishment. And then that's when in my head I was like, why am I only posting my cars? Like, yeah, cool, like maybe I can have my own dedicated car page, because a lot of my following are car enthusiasts, and I got into trading because I wanted to make enough money to afford whatever car that I wanted and to be able to afford the build on the cars that I wanted. That's literally the only reason that I got into to trading. And instead of it just being like a car page, it's like, this is my Instagram page. Why not just post everything that I do? You know, it's Instagram at the end of the day. But I guess this was obviously like pre-COVID. This was way back then. I say way back then, like it was fucking years
20 years ago.
Yeah, right. So I don't feel like social media was as big as a presence of like personal brand and things along those lines. That developed like way later on down the road for me.
Yeah. I like how you brought up about the consistency thing, because everyone always like asks traders, when do you become consistently profitable? And it's like, wouldn't really happen overnight. You have to be consistent with it, like over a period of time for it to like make sense. So, beyond that question, I want to ask, when it comes to the switch over, I mean, have you ever thought like, if you didn't get into trading, like what you'd even be interested in? Did you have anything before trading that you were kind of looking at?
I mean, the thing is, like, my goal, I wouldn't even really say goal, but I was really infatuated with the military. Like, I'd watch documentaries, I'd watch interviews, I'd watch YouTube videos on like the military, the Marines, and specifically like being a Marine sniper. That's like what I had as a vision of mine leaving high school. That's what I wanted to do while I was in high school. But then I got affected and diagnosed with Crohn's disease. So I was going through that epidemic it was really bad for like 2 years before it started kind of going into remission, which is a crazy word to have Crohn's disease and remission in the same sentence because it's a chronic disease.
Yeah.
But in my situation, it's almost like I'm completely healed. And that's kind of what I got into trading. I think if I wasn't into trading, I would probably be in some form of business or running one of my family's business, because we have an import-export company that we have many different locations here in the United States, in Shanghai, and in Colombia as well. So I feel like I would be running the operations outside of Colombia or also being into real estate as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Those are really cool goals and stuff. Now that you've been trading, you've accomplished so much. I know that one thing that people probably wonder is that money management. You know what I'm saying? You make a lot of money, and especially at your level, like you've accomplished so much, and it takes money to maintain it and live the lifestyle. I want to ask you, like, what was it like at first becoming young with money and then trying to hold on to it? Were you spending a lot at first? Just kind of take us through that journey, like when you first kind of started coming into that trading money.
Yeah, I was. So at first, when I really first started making a lot of money, and I guess that term, a lot of money, is very subjective to the individual, but for somebody who was practically 19 years old, a lot of money could have been arranged between like 20, 30, 40, 50 grand a month. It really just was a lot of just like reckless spending. Basically, I didn't have even in the back of my mind like taxes or anything, because I was just so worried about making and building the skill, building the system, finding an edge inside of the markets. And it was like, let me focus on making it first, and then I'll worry about everything else later, because if I don't make it, I don't have to worry about everything else. And like, so many people come up to me and they're like, hey, like, what should I do for my taxes when it comes to trading? I'm like, bro, trading is practically like getting a degree. Like, you don't, I promise you're probably going to be net negative for the first 2-3 years at least. Don't even worry about it. You just write it off your taxes as a loss. And then once you start making money, then you can start to worry about the taxes. So there was a lot of just like reckless spending. But of course, I always knew, and one thing my dad always told me from the beginning is like, you need to have reserves. Like, you can't have no savings, because when things don't go good, what are you going to rely on? So it went from like reckless spending to saving, but then also spending a lot as well. And the thing about it too is like, I always had my own cushion for like, okay, well, let me just hold on to this extra money for an extra trading account or whatever I wanted to do, right? And then now it's more or less like I went through a period where I spent a lot and saved. Then I went through a period where I literally just saved. And then I'm going through a period now where it's just like consistently reinvesting. Like, to be honest with you, like, I don't want to have, all I want to have in a checking account in a regular bank is literally just savings, like for whatever I need to live, for security, for whatever X amount of months. But everything else, I want it to be reinvested, whether it's opening a new business, whether it's putting into the stock market for long-term hold on maybe some equities like Tesla, Nvidia, Apple, Microsoft, whatever the case may be is. So I'm just consistently reinvesting practically all of my money, because I know that's the only way I'm really going to grow to the next level. Like, even like people wouldn't even like think about like even like the Bugatti, to be an example. When I bought the Bugatti, it's like I didn't buy the Bugatti because I wanted a Bugatti. I bought it for branding purposes. Everything is done very meticulously and it's very calculated. Now, the majority of times it goes very well, and then sometimes it may not. But that's the risk of being an entrepreneur. That's the risk of being a day trader, and that's the risk of just having a personal brand in general. But in life, especially if you want to get to new levels, like, you have to change your mindset. You have to change who you are as a person. The same person that you were that took you from 0 to 10K is not the same person that's going to take you from 100K to a million. So you consistently have to evolve as an individual, consistently remodel your mind to be able to reach those new levels. So now I'm at a point where it's like, you know what, like, right now, having $1 million inside of a checking account is losing me $70,000 a year.
Yeah.
Why do I want to have this much money inside of a checking account? Let me put this money to actually work for me and reinvest into either, again, like new businesses, either crypto, the stock market, whatever it can be. So my money is making me more money. Even if that money is put and allocated somewhere else, it's still there. Obviously, when it comes to a business, there's risks that are involved and I could lose money. And I understand that. But again, it goes to the fact of no risk, no reward.
Yeah.
You know? So that's kind of like where I'm at right now, basically.
And that's amazing. That I was going to ask if you had like suggestions on places to put that money, but like you said, like stocks, businesses, or real estate, all that type of stuff. So I'm guessing, I just kind of like knew, and I wanted to like kind of bring it up, as I know for a fact you do have the Bugatti, you have the house, you have the cars, but I know for a fact you do diversify and put your money in good places. So I wanted to like talk about that, because a lot of people out there will get money soon and then it's all spent, or they'll just keep it in the checking account and that's just getting withdrawn, or like you said, losing money every time. So I want to pick your brain about that. But bringing up, I just want to bring it up, the Bugatti. What did that feel like when you first got the first one? It's crazy to even say that.
Yeah, that is pretty wild. I'm going to be honest with you. So with my first Bugatti, it wasn't something that was necessarily like planned. Like, I want to do this, I want to get this. The opportunity was just so great.
Yeah.
Because it was a Bugatti, and that Bugatti has a crazy story. So my first Chiron, it was a Chiron Sport. They're limited. I forgot up to how much. I believe it's like up to like 60 models of the Chiron Sport, because you have the Chiron, which there's 500 models, and inside of the Chiron model, you have the regular Chiron, you have the Super Sport, you have the Pure Sport, and then you have the Chiron Sport, which that one was a Chiron Sport, so it's limited in production to begin with. It had 2 years of service and warranty. And the MSRP on the car, because it was full carbon fiber, I mean, that car had $380,000 in just carbon fiber options. And like, bro, there's so many things about Bugatti that unless you're going through the buying process, you wouldn't really know. Like, it has the sky view panels, which basically is like in the McLarens, you have the glass on top of your head. That's an $80,000 option. And in the Bugattis and the Chirons, you have two options. You have like the black accent option, which is, I don't remember the exact name, but that's what I'm going to call it, the black accents option. And then you have the regular like chrome on the interior. So that option alone, to have it in black accents and to have it in a different type of material that's not like a chrome or a silver look, is another 80 grand. So the MSRP on that car was $3.8 million. And it had 2,700 miles. And I knew that at that point I was getting a discount because I had built such a good relationship with the dealership and even like the managers of the dealership. I mean, I bought my very first, like, I don't want to say exotic car, but one of my very first, I guess, sports cars, exotic cars, you can call it, was a Porsche GT3. Because I had bought the Huracan from a different dealership. So I started the relationship with them with the Porsche GT3, and I've bought in over $24 million worth of cars with them. Obviously now it's a little bit more than that. But, I mean, they've seen me as a young 20-year-old kid all the way up to, I'm going to be 27 in October, now go through all of these different cars and experience and rotate all these different supercars. So the relationship that I've built with them is really great. And what's actually crazy is I'm one of the top 3 clients at that dealership, because they're Lamborghini, Koenigsegg, and Bugatti. And the other only clients that beat me, and I don't really look at it as a competition, but it's just like, wow, you know what I mean? Is just these billionaires that come in once in a blue moon, Chiron, Koenigsegg, you know, and then they'll have, you know, like you can't compete with that.
Yeah.
And I'm nowhere near being a billionaire, so they gave me a huge discount on the car because the car had been sitting for a long time, and they had it posted at 3.8. And this is gonna lead to another story, which is pretty crazy too.
Yeah.
So with all of that being said, right, I was like, you know what? I could buy the car, I can enjoy it, I could show people that it's possible, they could do it. I can get rid of it and take very minimal loss. And to be at that time 25 years old with a Bugatti that is, I mean, fuck, it's something that I don't think many people can hold nor say. And on top of that, it's such a huge milestone for a lot of people. And to be honest with you, I never really had set the goal I want a Bugatti, but the opportunity was so great that it's like, this is going to be a once in a lifetime thing. If I'm ever going to have a Bugatti, I'd rather have it now when I'm young and I can enjoy it versus when I'm 60, 70 years old that I'm not going to be wanting to drive it anyways.
Yeah.
You know? So it's like, you know what? Fuck it. Let's just do it, bro. So whatever. I mean, I sent them the wire, and that same day, literally they were telling me like, yo, look, you want this car? Because I was going in looking originally at a Koenigsegg because I was going to get a Koenigsegg.
Shit.
And I mean, it was an extra $1 million on top. The Koenigsegg
Yeah.
I was looking at was like 2.4 million. I had the Senna at the time. I wanted to trade it in the Senna for something else.
Yeah.
It was 2.4 million. And I mean, this car I ended up getting for like $3.4 million or whatever the case might be is. And that day I went to go look at the Koenigsegg, and then they offered me the Bugatti for a great deal. And I was like, you know what? Fuck it, bro. Let's just do it. You really only live once. Like, I could literally be driving home and get in a car crash, and like, that's it. When your time is up, your time is up. I'd rather experience it now that I have the money and the health as well, which is more important. And what's wild is after I bought that Bugatti, it had caused like a chain reaction, and they hadn't sold the Bugatti in I don't know how long. It was literally like months. Like the only people that were buying Bugattis were the ones ordering the new ones.
Yeah.
And the main salesperson, there's really only one, to be honest with you, there at Bugatti of Broward told me, bro, after you bought your Bugatti, we had sold like 8 or 9 other Bugattis shortly after you. So you had caused like this chain reaction in the Miami market for the Bugattis. And I was like, had to be me.
Yeah.
What can I say?
Someone had to copy.
Yeah, it had to be me. I had to start it first. What can I say?
I love that.
Yeah, but nah, I mean, jokes aside, I mean, that was pretty crazy.
Yeah.
And then, I sold it. I lost only a little bit of money. It was like, cool. It was a perfect time to sell it because with these cars, you have to be very careful in terms of like value. So I had driven it from 2,700 miles all the way up to 4,950 miles. I made sure when I were to sell it, it'd be under 5K miles. So they told me like, yo, if you really want to lose only a little bit of money, sell it at before 5K miles. Over that, you're gonna easily lose $400,000 or $500,000. So I was like, yeah, I'm not fucking losing $400,000 or $500,000. It's not happening.
Gone.
So whatever, I sold it. You know what's crazy part is, I sold it back to the dealership. Basically, like it was almost like a wholesale deal because when you're selling to a dealership, it's wholesale because they need to make their spread.
Yeah.
Right. I wasn't patient enough to be like, yo, I'm gonna just sit on it and wait on it, and whenever somebody comes and buys it, because I'm not gonna be paying for it just to sit on it and not want to drive it, and then if I do drive it, probably lose $400,000 or $500,000.
Yeah.
Bro, I sold it for basically almost the same price I bought it for, and they listed it online. 1 month later, they sold it for $3.85 million. So I could have even made an extra
money on it.
$600,000 on it. But I was like, you know what? Fuck it, who cares, bro? Like,
Yeah.
it's whatever.
That is crazy. I mean, those numbers even talk about that is wild.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's also the thing about trading and being in business. I mean, it's like when we talk about, you know, a few hundred G's, it's kind of like, okay, like it's reasonable. Once you start getting to tens of millions, it's like, oh, I haven't been there yet, so I wouldn't know what conversations like that looked like, you know. So it's just different. And then, I mean, I traded that Bugatti in for my Senna. Drove the Senna around, and now I have the Pure Sport.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask about that jump because the Senna was pretty sick too, and those colors like the orange with the blue, crazy. So take us through that. Why'd you like the Senna? Because you had one prior too. So two Bugattis, 2 Sennas.
Yeah.
I want to ask, what was the difference between the first Senna and the second one?
So really, it just came down to the spec.
Okay,
it was really all it is. Like I was like, okay, well, I got rid of the Bugatti. Like, what am I gonna replace it with? I'll just get another Senna. Cool.
Yeah.
You know, like the Senna was my dream car, and really, it still is. Like, if a really nice Senna pops up, like I wouldn't hesitate to, if I find the right buyer, sell the Bugatti and get the Senna. You know,
yeah, just back and forth.
That car is just, man. I mean, that's one of the cars that in 2019 when they were, or before that technically, so it'd be like 2016, 2017 when they were announcing the car itself. I'm like, wow, this is what I want.
Yeah.
This one day I will have.
Okay, and then back to the Bugatti. We had to pop out with the new one, the Pure Sport. So
yeah,
how'd that happen?
I mean, it came with opportunities. Honestly, like the way it happened wasn't supposed to happen, and the deal wasn't the greatest. I kind of got trapped into it, but
Yeah.
it's life. You live and you learn, but nonetheless, it happened.
And I love the look at it. It looks like James Bond. The inside, like the red and everything, I think
Yeah,
looks
yeah, it's
super
sick.
sick.
Yeah.
But I want to ask you. So previously, a couple weeks ago, I forget exactly how long ago, you went to this big Bugatti meet. Where there's a bunch of people, and you kind
Yeah.
of brought up a second ago how there's different conversations. There's the people you're talking to that are in the hundreds of thousands. Reason when we
Hmm.
start getting into the millions, it's different. So I wanted to ask, being around people who all are kind of like that and producing millions, and like, and I'm guessing even beyond that, you've talked to people who are in the tens of millions. Like, is that important? Does that give you motivation to get to those higher conversations?
100%.
Yeah.
Because it just goes to show you, like, all these different people have different backgrounds, and it's like, bro, if they could do it, why can't I?
Yeah.
And it exposes you to the reality. And it's funny because I was leaving dinner with one of my friends yesterday, and he was like, "Yo, every time I'm by this area, we were in South Beach in front of basically like Prime Italian, and the main beach there is South Point, right? And that they have the bridge and stuff there. That's where the cruise lines come in and out. There's these apartment buildings with these huge penthouses on top." And he points at them. He's like, "Every time I come by this area, I look at that, and I'm like, there's humans living in there. That's like $70 million. I wonder how." And I'm like, "Yo, do you remember when we were kids and we're like, could you just imagine having a GTR?"
Yeah.
And then we got there. And then it's like, "Yo, I want you to realize that $70 million, although it's a big number, it's not far fetched. We came to dinner in my $5 million Bugatti. I want you to realize that and remember that from where we started to where we are. There could be setbacks and everything else, but we've already gotten to a point. There's no reason why we can't get over here either.
Yeah.
It's just if we want to set out to do it and get it done and how we're going to do it and build a game plan and a blueprint around it.
Mm-hmm.
Is really what it comes down to.
And at this point, like, what still gives you that motivation beyond like the money and the cars and just like, I don't know. I feel like someone who's, I don't want to say you've accomplished a lot because, like you said, it's relative to the person,
Mm-hmm.
but like family, is it like, what's your purpose, I guess, at this point?
Really, it just comes down to a few things,
Mhm.
obviously. Right. One is going to be my faith and bringing my family closer to my faith and my beliefs in religion. That's ultimately number one. Number two would be to provide the best quality of life to my family. And that doesn't necessarily mean like private jets, Bugattis, Rolls Royces, but necessarily like, we live very comfortably. We have food on the table and we don't really have to stress about money. And then I guess the last point would be is really to live life the way I want to live life. And I go through like these periods where it's like here, especially like here in the US, everything that you buy is never really gonna be yours because it can be taken away from you. I mean, if you're somebody that you're driving a car, you say you bought a Lamborghini and you get in a car accident and the car's under your name, you're cooked. They could sue you personally. They could sue you for everything that you have, especially if the damages are serious, especially if you were DUI.
Yep.
Like everything can be taken away from you at an instant. So it's never to lose that gratitude and to always be grateful as to where I am, where I came from, and where I could potentially go. And it's to also learn that materialism isn't everything, because again, like now that I have the Bugatti, it's like, yes, I appreciate having it, but it's a part of my life now. I don't want to say it's normal because again, I don't want to sound arrogant. I don't want to be like, oh, this is just a fucking Toyota to me. It's not. I value the journey and what it's cost me to get here and where I'm at, but it's again a part of your life.
Yeah.
When you look at your car, it's just your car. So it's kind of like the same thing. So it's to learn how to detach myself from materialism and not put the value towards that materialism as to that's what's making me, I guess, who I am. When I've seen a lot of those cases is people's personalities will be money and people's personalities will be materialism when realistically money is just a tool for us to leverage to not only grow and make more money, but to get the best experiences out of life possible. Because when you die, I guess, yeah, sure, you could be remembered for what you had or what you've accomplished, but people are mainly going to remember what type of person you were and how you treated others with respect. There's been a lot of people that I've been around that have had a shit ton of money, but I'm like, yo, he's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
I would never want to be around him again. And he's like, he really only realistically made a couple $1,000,000 versus people who have made hundreds of millions of dollars in different industries, and they're one of the coolest people on the earth, and I could be like, yo, let's go smoke a cigar and have a whiskey. Like, all right, let's do it and have great and amazing conversations and treat others with respect, more importantly, because the thing about some of these people, when they come into money or a lot of money, whatever somebody would, I guess, describe to be a lot of money, that I look at least is how do you treat other people who aren't in your same position? Because obviously there's so many different types of people. There's even people that will treat only people who have success and wealth with great respect, but then somebody who's serving them their food, they'll treat like absolute garbage. And that's like the most disgusting thing that I've ever seen in my life, because at the end of the day, you're allowing something that isn't even real. Because money is not fucking real, especially the Fed prints it every single day, you know?
Just go grab it.
A piece of paper that's literally losing value year over year. And that's how you're treating another human being. It's kind of like, yo, yeah, you're disgusting.
Yeah. Well, it's really cool to hear from someone, especially at your level, just because, you know, like you said, gratitude, being grateful for the things that you've accomplished and not letting it get really to your head. So I'm super glad to hear that. But I want to ask, so what does it feel like being only 26, but being kind of considered like an OG in the trading space? You know, like people
That's
consider
pretty
you,
wild, bro,
like,
to be honest with you. I think it's dope, but I'm not sure. I would definitely say, like, in the social media space, I was definitely there, and there's a lot of people trying to come into the trading space now to essentially replicate what we've all already done, which I think is super dope, you know? And I was talking about one of my friends about this the other day, because he trades and he hasn't found like really great success, but he's super knowledgeable. He makes money. And I'm like, bro, you know what I like to watch people's journeys.
Yep.
So you should be documenting that. Even if you have no goal of it, you should be documenting it. So then even if it's not for other people, but it's for yourself, so then you could look back on the journey itself and really be like, damn. Because nowadays, especially after, accomplishing, I guess, a lot in terms of materialism and what I've wanted to do and I set out for, it's really looking back at all those old pictures, all those old videos that I've taken, and it's kind of like, wow, this is where I started, and I had the mindset and I had the vision of being where I'm at today, and I really did it. That's kind of where it's like more enjoyable, and especially the people that were around me at the time, we could really look back and laugh at, yo, could you believe, like, because I have one of my best friends that we started essentially when we were like 10, 11, 12 years old, bro. We started selling candles or literally homemade candles to our neighbors to want to fund our skateboarding hobby at the time. And it's fun to look back at, yo. And it's funny because we were literally driving home in the Bugatti from the dinner. He's like, yo, can you believe all this bullshit started because we started selling candles to our neighbors, bro?
Like back in the
And
day.
it's those conversations that, really build like a really good brotherhood, if that's what you want it, with somebody who isn't your same blood. Although I would consider him to be like literally family.
Yeah. And that's amazing. Do you think, because for me, like trading was around before you started.
Of course.
But like, I think like the social media and like what kind of is now relevant and kind of like the norm now, I feel like was kind of started like right around the like you part or maybe a little bit before. And you push it to the new level. So I wanted to ask that. You kind of already answered it, but like there's a lot of people out here trying to replicate everything that like has already been done. And then you kind of answered that. I wanted to ask like how to be unique. And I love that you said, and this advice for everyone out there is like, show your journey. If you guys aren't where you want to be yet, like don't fake, don't be all the fake and
you don't have to
stuff.
fake like being something you're not.
Yeah.
Especially in such an industry where there's a lot of garbage trading advice. Like there was just one person that I started following on Instagram a few months ago. It's like, yo, I've been trading for 5 years and I've been struggling this whole time, but he's basically still showcasing his journey and where he is and where he's at and what it's going to take him to get to that level that he wants to get at. And that's like, wow, that's really dope. And immediately after seeing a few of his reels, I just followed him because I really enjoyed his content. But I feel like really you just have to be yourself, bro.
Yeah.
You don't want to imitate anybody else. And really it's just being yourself is what it is at the end of the day, because people want to be able to really get to know who you are as a person behind the trading and behind everything.
Bro, nice car. How fast? Oh, thanks. She goes 0 to 60 in like 3.5 seconds. What? Bro, mine's way faster. Look at this. What, bro? You literally walked here. No. My withdrawals from Maven. Fast in the industry. Way faster than that.
Get funded instantly. Trade fast. Trade with Maven. Use the link in the description for the best deal possible.
You know?
Yeah. Well, that's great. So I want to hear your answer to this. Because people are trying to replicate and stuff, what is it that made you different at the beginning? That, like, because a lot of people are trying to do what you did or trying to do similar things or just media in general. Why is it that you were able to find so much success, and why do you think people were so drawn towards you?
I would say that's a fairly simple question, and really it came down to my knowledge and how I made money from the markets, my trading system, because my trading system, I would say, is a little bit more complex now than it was before. I trade the same system now. The only difference is I've added and incorporated order flow into my trading system, but it was really just based off supply and demand, because when I first started trading, I mean, I was just like everybody else. Indicators this, listening to a ton of people online, switching strategies, until it got to the point where it's like, okay, it's not working. What am I doing wrong? And then it's going back into like, okay, well, why do the markets even move anyways? Well, nowadays, I obviously know that there's like a market auction theory, but back then it's like, okay, well, it really just comes down to supply and demand. If Tesla right now is trading at 200, really good and big investors are going to see, oh, this is great. Tesla's at a huge discount. I'm going to start buying Tesla up. And then when Tesla's at all-time highs, it's like, oh yeah, this is too expensive. I'm going to get rid of my stock, or just from a really quick like analysis, So the market moves off of supply and demand, and I guess that's like the easiest, the most basic term to put it in, instead of explain the market auction theory. And it really came over, okay, well, if the market moves based off supply and demand, why not let me make a trading strategy based off of supply and demand? And that's really all I did. And I traded, and I could explain my system, and I can explain trading very well, and I can simplify essentially the terminology inside of trading and the system itself to people where they can understand it very easily. Because some people can understand things that are very complex very easily, but other people, it may take them a little bit longer. So I was able to essentially explain it to a whole huge audience of people in, I guess, different educational levels, and they were able to understand it and interpret it. So I feel like that's where people connect with me a lot too. And I also showed people my journey, more importantly, as well. When I had the Huracan, I mean, bro, you go back to some of my old YouTube videos, I was getting payouts of 30, 40, 50 grand at my parents' house. Like, you could see my bed in the back. And I was living at my dad's house. And you know what's crazy, bro? I was living at my dad's house, and I had like a fucking $400,000 car collection. Because that was my priority, bro. I wanted my cars. I had the Huracan, the GTR, and the M3. I took up my dad's driveway. I'm like, yo, it's funny because my dad told me, he's like, yo, you're gonna have to go find parking somewhere else, because I can't even park my own cars. I'm like, listen, son. When you drive a Lamborghini,
We could talk.
and a GTR, then we could talk.
That's hilarious.
It was funny, bro. But that's the type of relationship me and my dad have. It's even with the Bugatti, he's like, when are you gonna let me take out the Bugatti? And I was like, Dad, I want you to understand one thing. This is a man's car. I don't know if you can handle a man's car.
That's awesome.
Which is dope, because I remember he would always tell me the same shit. Whenever it came to anything, I was like, Dad, let me borrow your car really quick to go to the grocery store. He's like, son, it's a man's car. It's powerful. I don't know if you can handle this. So when I finally flipped it back on him, it was the best feeling ever.
That's crazy. And how do you think he's loved seeing your success, seeing him even to the Bugatti now? Like, how do you think it's been for him?
Oh, man, I mean, I don't know, bro, to be honest with you. I mean, I know he's obviously proud of me, because to see your son essentially start, because we had, I lived at my mom's at the time. It was a pantry that was smaller than this room. I would say it was half of this room, a quarter, if that. I know you remember. And I turned that into my trading office. So he saw me start from there to then slowly just the whole journey and the whole progression to where I'm at now, and, me and my family, we live in a 7-bedroom house that we have like 7,500 square foot worth of living space on a 13,000 square foot lot. Yeah. So, there's been huge differences. I mean, if I was my own son, I'd be super proud.
Yeah.
And the conversations we had, it definitely seems that way and is that way realistically. And you know what's crazy? I always thought about this from the longest time, because how I let social media affect my mind. It was when I first started, and I first started finding success. You know, my dad always did very well for himself, but you know what the thing about that too is he always said and always told me, this always stuck with me as one, I completely understand him now. He always told me, he was like, I'm not a rich guy. I'm a very hardworking guy. There's a big difference between a rich guy and a really hardworking guy. And that always stuck with me. But then I let kind of like what the social presence and the perspective of people would have on me based off of my dad's own success
Yeah.
affect my decisions. So for a really, really long time, I always did everything on my own without his help. But you know what the problem with that is? Specifically has already gone through tons of different learning curves that if I would have just basically not given a fuck about what people would have said and thought on social media, because at the end of the day, like, who really gives a fuck about what people say on social media? Then I would be in a 10 times, I'd probably have like 4 Bugattis by now, you know? But because I had that perspective and I didn't want people to have that perception of me, I allowed that to affect my decision making and basically like not include him on anything, never ask him for help with anything. And I mean, I feel like I still done very well, but I could have done better. And the thing I realized was, why am I ashamed of that? When in reality, that is the real flex.
Yeah.
He does and has did so many things that people want to do for their own kids.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So why am I looking at that with some form of shame? And why am I not proud of that? That let's put like a title to like, he did his job. He set out to do what he wanted to do. And he was able to accomplish that. Like, why am I ashamed of that? So a while ago, that's when my mind had flipped on that. And it was like, yo, I'm proud of that because more importantly, not only is my dad, we're a team.
Yeah.
And we could go and do things together and start different ventures together because at the end of the day, there's no other man on this earth. I guarantee you, there's no other man on this earth that wants to see you doing better than him than your own dad.
Yeah.
So
That's so amazing.
So it's like, bro, I had switched my mind. It's like, bro, fuck what people think, bro. So yeah, so whenever I need help, I'm gonna ask him for help, and vice versa. Whenever he needs my help, I'm gonna be there for him too.
Yeah.
And we're a team, and it's just like us versus everybody else against the world because there's no
that.
other unity like father and son and family at the end of the day.
That's so great to hear. And for me, it's super cool from like an outside perspective hearing, because it's the same thing about like what you said. He worked extremely hard to give you a good life. Who doesn't want that for their kids?
Literally, bro.
And I want to ask you, you know, you've now had a child. What does it feel like being a dad now? Do you want to sit out and kind of do the similar thing?
Yeah, 100%. So, I mean, I am a girl dad.
Yeah, I know it's a difference.
I've completely accepted it, you know. At this point, I've always wanted a son. But as of right now, I'm a girl dad. Maybe that could change in the future, but fuck, man. Having kids is,
I bet.
That's tough, bro.
Yeah.
Like, the way I view it with my daughter, she's a princess. So, not that I'm going to spoil her where she's going to become like a brat.
Yeah.
But she's going to be well taken care of.
Course.
You know, until the day she finds her husband and is like, yo, dad, like, I'm gonna marry this guy. And I'm like, all right, cool. Like, you're joining his family. Yeah. You're creating a family with him now. Like, you're his full responsibility. Yeah. You know, so make sure you choose well.
Hell yeah. That's awesome. And then setting, like, what would you do if she said she was gonna be a trader? Do you influence that or?
100%.
Yeah.
I would be like, let's do it. Okay. Because I know my daughter. And it's nuts because she's going to be 2 right now in April. That girl's a copy and paste version of me. Like LamboRaul. 100%. It's funny because I was literally, me and my mom were telling my wife this yesterday. Like, my wife with my daughter practically did nothing in terms of her personality, the way she looks. She doesn't even look like my wife. She looks like either me or my mom. Yeah. And really, it was funny because we were fucking around with her. We were like, all you did was just package her up and deliver her to us. And it's like, wow, thank you. And I know she would do really great, and I would support it as best as I can because, I mean, by then, let's say she's going to be 15, right? And she's like, Dad, I want to get into trading. I'd be like, all right, cool. You know how many years of trading experience I would have by then? Crazy. Like, I would be the best person for her to get into trading. Yeah. So if she wanted to, then I definitely would show her the right way of doing things and start her off as soon as she wanted to, really.
I love, too, that you brought up that, like, by then you're going to be a great trader. Because I think one thing people always forget is that, like, you've been consistently showing results for a while. Like, one of the first things, I don't know if, I think I probably followed you before that, but 100K FTMO payout.
Yeah.
You can't like you
I
can't
was-
fake any. You can't do
Bro,
any.
I was literally like the very first one.
Yeah.
And you know what?
6-figure payout.
You know what's crazy about that too is people have it's really weird because I feel like people project their own insecurities into their own thoughts as to why they're failing. So it's easier to say, oh, this is fake. This is not real.
Yeah.
People even said that FTMO 100K payout was not real when on the opposite hand, I was worried FTMO wasn't going to pay me out because nobody had seen a 6-figure payout before. But I had already ran into an issue with FTMO with like a way smaller payout, like $38,000, and they didn't really want to pay me out. And there was kind of like a little bit of a shit show online made by, let's call them a third party person, right? And then they ended up paying me out. So when it got to the 100K, which before that was a $40,000 payout, before that 100K payout.
Yeah.
So when it got to the 100K payout, it was like, oh, fuck, are they going to pay me? Right? Because I didn't know.
Yeah.
They ended up paying me, and it went smooth, bro.
Did they end up like messaging you first or anything, or was it as simple as clicking withdraw and they end up sending it?
No, they I think they hit me up for a podcast first. I confirmed, then they sent it.
You say no, they're like, all right, well, you're not getting it. That's hilarious.
Well, you got to do it then.
Yeah.
Fuck, all right, bro.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
So to this day, do you have like a single biggest trade that you know off the top of your head?
Yeah, I had one really big trade on gold, which I ended up making $220,000, which I made a vlog on that from Vegas. It wasn't even supposed to happen that way. So I was in Vegas when I had taken the position. I hopped on the plane. I think I was floating maybe 30, 40 grand in profit at that time. I hop on the plane, and once I land in Miami again, it was like a 4-hour flight. I really quick open up my trading program, and I see I'm up $220,000. And what ended up happening was I had set a hard take profit for, I think it was maybe close to 100 grand. It was like 90 some $1,000 in change. But because I was in the air, there was no Wi-Fi, so it never set my hard take profit. And then I ended up being up 220 grand, which it could have gone very bad because I had my stop loss set, but I'm floating like 30, 40 grand at the time. And my stop loss was at like $20,000. So basically, I would have given back $20,000, or like I would have given back my 20 grand plus the unrealized 30, 40 grand in profit. Worst case scenario and best case scenario, I mean, I made $220,000.
That is insane.
Yeah, it was just, it was literally just a standard swing trade setup. For me, it was a break and retest of a higher time frame key level, and that was it.
All right, now I want to get into, you've been trading kind of a similar way for a while, but how are you implementing order flow into your trading? Like, why is that important to you, and why do you think you have a bigger edge with order flow?
It's funny because I was actually talking about this with a one-on-one student literally yesterday. So the thing about trading and being a trader is if you stop evolving as a trader, if you stop becoming the best trader you possibly can be, then you're done.
Yeah.
You're done. The markets are constantly evolving. You're going to be done, and you're going to have no edge, right? And I mean, there are so many different topics we could talk about. We could talk about systematic trading systems where it's very black and white. There's no discretion involved, which I tried it before in the past, and it's very, I don't want to say inconsistent, but it's what it is.
Yeah.
And then you have discretionary trading, which I believe the majority of great traders have a mix of both, especially within conversations I've talked about with traders that are way larger than me. So I went through a really big winning streak back around a little bit after COVID. It was like 2022, 2023, around there, where I was making almost $100,000 a day from the markets. And this is when inflation was super high and the Federal Reserve just consistently kept raising interest rates. And there was just one day specifically that the S&P 500 dropped like 5% that day, which is huge.
Yeah.
That was a huge move in the markets. It was kind of like, oh, fuck. So my mind behind everything that was going on, it's like, bro, inflation is super high. We have the Fed raising rates after every single FOMC meeting. So we're just going to see a crash. Like, it's going to happen. There's going to be a lot of fear inside of the market. And I was just finding every opportunity I could to short. And I ended up making basically a little bit over $1 million in the span of a month. So I was making almost 100 grand practically every single day. And there'd be trades. I remember, there was this one trade where I was floating $180,000 in profit. And because of how fast I got there, I just got so greedy. I'm like, 200K, 200K, 200K. I'm going to beat my last trade because the trade that I had on gold for 220K was like my biggest trade. Like obviously I've had like 6-figure days, but they weren't as frequent as what was happening there.
Yeah.
And imagine like when you're making almost 100 grand a day from the markets, I'm not talking about from business. It's 100% profit.
Yeah.
That's yours. My ego was through the roof. Like, bro, anybody can tell me anything. It's like, oh, fuck off. You know, like leave me alone.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't care. Right. And you're just in like such a like euphoric state. But it was the very first time I've ever experienced something like that in the markets. And this is what I always tell people. It's like, as you hit new levels inside of the markets, like you're going to hit a new psychological barrier. It's going to happen. This is why you always have to constantly evolve as a trader. And if you want to get to those new levels, it requires a completely different new version of yourself.
Yeah.
So after that huge winning streak, I was still married to the idea of the markets crashing because of how bad the state of the economy was doing. So I continued looking to take any short position that I can, but then the markets started to become very balanced. The markets really saw fair value at a lot lower levels after this huge crash that we've already seen in the markets, and the conditions were changing. Instead of being bearish, we're now consolidating. So I was still looking for opportunities to short, and I was shorting lows, you know, looking for breaks of those lows to confirm like a new move to the downside. And really quickly, what was up, me being up over $1 million in profit, I had lost close to $300,000. It was literally like 275 grand around there in the span of like 3 days. And I was like, oh, fuck. Like, that's huge. I had never experienced a loss like that in that time frame before. So it was like, oh my God. And I had the pressures of my wife is going to deliver. Like, all this was going on. So I literally withdrew every cent that I had from every single trading account. Because I have multiple different portfolios for different risk parameters. I don't want to say different strategies, but different purposes. You know, different holding times. So I had to withdraw every single cent that I possibly could, because I knew at that point it was going to be almost like one of those make it or break it situations, because you could still allow yourself to go on tilt and give back
100%.
days, weeks, years worth of gains. So I'm like, I'm withdrawing this. Like, this is happened to me when I first started. This is where I would lose a shit ton of money. Like, although I already lost $250,000, retrospectively speaking, I was still net profit 700 grand. Oh my God. You know what I mean? So I withdrew everything that I possibly could.
Yeah.
And I sat back and I analyzed what I was doing. And then, very similar to when I first started trading, it was one of those moments where it was like, why do the markets move? Why do they move the way that they do? And what, not only did I have a failure to adapt to new market conditions, but I felt like my system was very black and white in many perspectives. And it's like, well, why are the markets moving at the way they're moving off of these demand levels? So then I started doing some research, and then I started having some conversations with some friends such as Umar, Carmine, and they exposed me to order flow, and I'll always be forever thankful to them for exposing me to that. So when it came to order flow, again, and it goes back to like the market auction theory, is you have a lot deeper of an understanding of what's actually going on between the buyers and the sellers inside of the markets. And on top of that, when you're actually looking at these specific key levels, you could really see who's in control at these key levels. You could see and you can also see who the aggressor is in that situation. When price action is pushing down to an area of support, and you see sellers are being really aggressive and volume is picking up like crazy, but price is not going anywhere. What that simply just tells me is that we have a lot of passive buying at that level. And as long as those passive buyers remain absorbing those aggressive positions to the downside, then when that selling demand does dry down, we're going to see that pop and that move back up. Right? Versus many people, like even one of the trades that I took this week that I posted on my second YouTube channel, because I started a YouTube channel just for trades, in live trades, is it was at a key level of support based off of the volume profile. And like, there's so many different things that we could talk about. We could talk about there being gaps in fair value, and I'm not talking about ICT. You could talk about areas of fair value as well, where the market's very balanced. There's a lot of transactions going on in that area, just basing off of volume profile. And there was a specific trade that I had taken where a lot of people in that situation would have looked at short, because a low was just recently broken. We're technically trading under a key level. But what I saw was a ton of sellers coming into the markets, a ton of big sellers coming into the markets. But then after those big sellers entered their positions, price immediately started popping back up. So to me, it's like I'm buying this low of day, and I'm buying where these big sellers came back into the markets. And that was like one of the fastest trades that I had this week. I made like $30,000 in 9 minutes.
Wow.
And that's another reason why I got into order flow too, because on that trade specifically, I risked $5,000 instead of risking $20,000 to make 40, 50 grand, 60 grand for a 2R.
Yeah.
I only risked $5,000. I was able to make $30,000.
Insane.
So there's a lot of different reasons, but the main reason that I got into order flow was to really give me a better understanding of the market, why things are actually happening, to increase my win rate, and more importantly, is to have a system where my edge is built off of an understanding of what's going on between the buyers and the sellers and how I can exploit those inefficiencies that are inside of that market specifically. And all I did was tie in my order flow setups with my current setups, which they're basically the same thing. All I'm doing is waiting for price to get down into my specific level that I'm looking to trade and confirming that the trade is valid with order flow, because there's a lot of different trades that I just simply didn't take because because of the order flow data wasn't syncing up with my bias on that specific move. So it's really great for confirmation, and it's really great to give you that deeper understanding of what's really happening inside of the markets. And the thing about trading price action alone is price action is basically delayed data, because a lot of people wait for candlestick confirmations to get into the position, which when you look at that, you're waiting for price action to go in your favor to give you that confirmation. And what that's really doing is that's increasing your risk on the trade, because you need to use a larger stop loss now, and decreasing your reward at the same time, because you have to set take profit levels based off of logic, not based off of, because I think price is going to go all the way up here. You have to set them based off of logic. So if that one candlestick confirmation was already 30, 40% of your move, you missed out on 30, 40% of your gains, and you just killed your R multiple by 30, 40%. So getting into order flow, it gives you kind of like an x-ray vision as to what's really happening and if the trade is valid before the move even happens itself. And what that allows me to do is risk 2-3 points on a trade.
That's
and
crazy.
I'm really able to catch 20, 30, 40 points in that specific move. So the R multiples are just ridiculous. And I'm just kind of throwing like crazy R multiples out there to just give you the understanding. It's like nowadays, I'm only risking 2-3 points a trade to try and catch 10, 12, 14, 15 points, where it's like, yeah, the moves are smaller, but the R multiples are still the same.
Still there.
And when you go back, and let's bring up the FTMO record, right? Because it's public.
Yeah.
I have it posted everywhere. You look at the trades and the average hold time. The average hold time was 4 hours for me to make 30 grand. Now my average hold time, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. What does that allow me to do?
Quick trading.
What is the freedom that comes with that, right? Because now I could trade from 9:30 to 11 o'clock. If by then I don't catch a move, then my edge really isn't there, because I know I'm most profitable during like that first hour of the day. And that's when my setups typically happen, because again, my setups work based off of volume as well. Now it only takes me realistically, let's call an average of 15 minutes to make 30 grand versus 4 hours.
Yeah.
You know what that does to the amount of money I make every single minute? If you were to look at it from like an hourly rate, my value has just significantly gone up. And on top of that, I get to live my life.
Yeah.
A lot of people are so focused and worried about swing trading because they're like, oh my God, it's so much easier to swing trade. I don't have to think about the market so fast. I don't have to be on top of it and watch the market. It's like, if you think about it, how many times throughout your swing trade, let's call it if it's a 6-7 hour swing trade, are you consistently looking at your phone?
Yeah.
And are you in a situation of stress because you consistently have to manage that position? And when you also think about it this way, is you're really locked in, and things that you should be doing where you should be worried about, oh, you know, what am I going to eat for dinner? What are we going to do with the family today? You know, you're focused and you're worried on your trade, and that's always going to be in the back of your mind.
Yeah.
And then what that does is the longer that the trade is open to, it exposes you to more risk because you don't know what's going to happen in the world. There's been so many trades where back then where I'd be holding trades for hours and hours and hours upon end, you know, Trump would make a tweet and then there goes my trade.
Yeah.
You know, there's like so many different variables that people don't consider when it comes to swing trading. Like for me, if you're swing trading, you need to be into these things. You need to be into, again, macroeconomics and understanding why the market moves in the direction that it's going to move, especially if you're trading Forex specifically. Yeah. And even the stock market, even in the indexes, you need to have an understanding of the economy and economics, because that's really what's going to drive your position in that way. And the markets, if you're looking for a 3-4% move out of the markets, you really think an average trading day is going to move the market 3-4%? No, it's going to be a big catalyst that does that. So if you don't know how CPI affects the markets, if you don't know how FOMC affects the markets, if you don't know what the Federal Reserve and if they have a hawkish or dovish sentiment affects the markets, you're cooked.
Yeah.
Like, good luck finding consistency in swing trading.
Yeah.
And on top of that, you're already going to have an automatic lower win rate, but your R multiple could potentially make up for it. So are you somebody where you could lose a lot more and still remain on your next trading days with being calm and thinking logically and critically on all your trading decisions? Or are you going to allow your previous losses, call them maybe 3, 4, 5 in a row, to eat up your trading psychology and your mental capabilities for you to make the most logical and accurate decisions that you possibly can? Because it's from my own personal experience and from working with literally thousands of traders over the years, after a trader loses 3 trades in a row, like their accuracy drops to the floor.
Yeah.
So it's, for me now, especially, my win rate is a lot higher. I think right now I'm like the 67% win rates. And that's because I give one setup multiple opportunities, because again, I only risk 2 points. That's a pretty small stop. So I can get stopped out at 2 points. And to me, I don't care. If I take, and I stop myself at 3 trades a day. If I take 2 trades and I lose 2 points, okay, I'm down 4 points on the day, whatever. But if that that third trade is a 12-point, 14-point gain, what does it matter?
Yeah,
I just made all that back plus more, and I still save a lot of my own mental capacity. So
it's a great answer. I've been so curious about that because I met someone in Dubai that like kind of introduced it to me and was like, this is the whole reason why I'm so confident in my trades, and he trades for hedge funds and stuff like that. So I was curious when I've seen all over Instagram and stuff.
Bro,
which is just super cool to see.
Even then, bro, you look at like for the Robbins Cup, let's call it. You look at like the main traders that win the Robbins Cup. What do they trade? Order flow. You look at some of the really big 8-figure traders, which I aspire to be one day. And I'm not gonna bullshit online just because I've a bunch of cars and Bugattis. Oh, I'm an 8-figure trade. Like you see all these other people bullshit about.
Yeah.
I trade multiple 8 figures. Like, okay, buddy. What do you trade? Okay. Real 8-figure traders in the markets, they trade using order flow.
Yeah.
So it's like, if these big guys that I know are making serious money in the markets, and I want to be like them, I need to evolve. And that's the thing about me, is I don't have this belief in myself where I'm always the best and I'm always at a constant state of being the best. There's always room for improvement. Perfection in this world does not exist the minute that sin came into the world. It doesn't happen. So for me, I found my flaws. It's like I was trading a very good but basic system where I can increase my profitability by having a deeper understanding of the markets and really looking at order flow.
Yeah.
And it's like, especially even with a lot of my students now, bro, we'll have conversations where it's like, bro, thank you for showing us order flow, because without order flow, like, it's just like, I look back at what I was doing before, and it's like, no wonder why I was so lost a lot of the times. And even then, it's like, bro, they get into order flow, it's like, they could be doing good, but once they get into order flow, it's like, now I'm doing great. And they're like, bro, when I look at a regular price action chart without any of my order flow tools or data, I'm like, bro, I feel naked.
Yeah.
I feel literally exposed, naked. Like, like you can't
Doesn't make as much sense.
because now you have it's kind of like you have like X-ray goggles and you could see what's really going on.
Yeah.
Versus you look at a price action chart and you're like, well, I don't even want to touch this without looking at least the footprint.
Yeah. That's great, bro. Well, I could sit here and talk to you for literally hours about that because I'm so curious and I want to learn it really good. But I want to ask you one final question before we wrap up. Is someone who's been in the trading industry for so many years, who has taught so many students, what are some common mistakes you see amongst failing traders, and what are some ways they maybe can avoid it? And then just some maybe last minute words of advice for people out there.
Well, I guess the biggest one really would come down to is, are you trading a shitty system? Because that's like a lot of traders are just trading a shitty system, to be honest with you. Right? So let's remove the shitty system and the markets too. Like they're trading these markets that are super efficient, that consolidate the majority of the times, and it's like they're super hard to beat. So not only are they trading a shitty system, but they're trading a market that's consolidating the majority of the times and that are super hard to beat and that barely move on a daily basis. Let's put it in a perfect scenario, right? They have a good system and they're trading markets that trend a lot and have really big moves and provide great R multiple opportunities every single day. Really, it just comes down to overtrading and over leveraging is the two main things that I say every day. And I say this a lot because the majority of people that come into like my one-on-one mentorship will hop on one-on-one calls and we'll be going over the last year worth of trading, and immediately I can spot it right away. In a single day, 7 trades, 8 trades, 9 trades, 10 trades, 14 trades. They'll be their biggest red days where they give it all back. And specifically with these students, I tell them to do one thing. All right, look, what I want you to do is I want you to go back into your journal, remove every single trade of the day, and only allow yourself to have like that one trade that you took on that day. Look at your results. Then look at what happened if you would have only taken 2 trades on that day. And I'm talking about for every single day. Look at your results. And then 3 trades. And then cut it off there. And then they look at the results and they're like, fuck, bro, I would have been up 70% on the year. I would have been up 50% on the year. I would have been up 110% on the year. And it's like over trading is killing them. And then you combine over trading with over leveraging. That's the combination of death. Like you're cooked once you combine over trading and over trading with over leveraging. And also like not being selective enough, thinking that consistently just trading more doesn't mean that you're being more effective. You just want to start removing the amount of trades that you actually take and focus on setups that are very high in probability that you plan in the pre-market. And more importantly, like the one thing people I think look at or don't look at enough is trading is a business. Yeah. And you need to treat it as such. And as a regular business, you're going to have somebody running your accounting and your books. And in this situation, when you put it into the markets, it's your journal. And I can't emphasize this enough. Like you need to be journaling your trades and why you're taking your trades every single day. So then when you're going back and you're doing an end of week review or an end of month review, you know exactly every single reason why you're taking a trade. And you could find the inefficiencies within not only your system, but within yourself and what's causing you to potentially not be profitable. But a lot of people don't want to do that work because it is a lot of work. And I do that to this day. And there's even days where I'm like, oh, fuck, like it was automatically journaled for me. Like I know why I took the trade. It's a regular setup. And then it's like, bro, I immediately regret like 3 hours. I was like,
you understand.
Let me go back to my computer and let me finish my journal. But it's the work that you have to do. And then that's really what it comes down to. And then a lot of people just try and flip accounts, which if you're somebody who you're not making money already in the markets, like you have to have the understanding if you're going to go for an account flip, like you could lose it all. Yeah. Does that mean you're a bad trader? No, it just means that you're trading very heavy on risk and your system that specific time you got unlucky and the markets were in flowing rate and you were just taking good trades, but they were just not playing out in your favor and you lost 50% of your account on this flip. Bad market. You know, that's really what it comes down to.
Well, that's awesome, bro. I feel like you just spit so many gems on this podcast. I'm going to have to go back and listen to it. But everyone, please like, subscribe, and comment below. Thank Raul for coming, bro. I want to appreciate you for taking the time. It's been such a pleasure getting to sit down. I hope you do like a part 2 or something because there's a bunch more I want to ask. But appreciate you, bro.
No,
Until
of course,
next time.
Thank you, bro.
Like and subscribe, guys. Stay tuned for the next podcast, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace out.